I'm 74. If I could raise my children again, I'd stop trying to be perfect. The biggest lie we tell ourselves as parents is that if we do everything right, our children will be safe and beyond reproach. My name is Elizabeth. I am 74 years old, and looking back at the 30 years I spent raising 3 children, I can see now that my obsession with being a perfect mother actually built a wall between me and the very people I was trying so hard to love. I treated motherhood like a high-stakes performance review, convinced that any mistake I made would permanently damage my children, when in reality, it was my refusal to make mistakes that hurt them the most. I want to take you back to the early days, back when my house was run with the precision of a military operation. I was a mother in an era where we didn't have social media to compare ourselves to, but we had the neighborhood, the church, and the silent, heavy expectations of our own mothers. I internalized the idea that a good mother is a woman who is never tired, never overwhelmed, and whose children are always polite, clean, and achieving. I remember standing in my kitchen, staring at a calendar that was color-coded for soccer practice, piano lessons, and tutoring, feeling a tightness in my chest that never really went away. I thought that tightness was love. I thought that the anxiety keeping me awake at night, wondering if I had signed the permission slips, or if the lunches were balanced enough, was proof that I was doing a good job. I was so busy managing my children's lives that I forgot to actually witness them. I remember a specific afternoon when my oldest son, David, came home with a B on a math test. He was a bright boy, sensitive and artistic, but I had decided early that he needed to be competitive to survive in the world. Instead of seeing the fear in his eyes or asking him how he felt about it, I immediately went into fix-it mode. I hired a tutor, I restricted his television time, and I gave him a lecture about potential and discipline. I didn't hug him. I didn't tell him that a grade doesn't define his worth. I treated him like a project that was falling behind schedule. I see now that I wasn't trying to help him learn math. I was trying to soothe my own fear that his failure would be a reflection of my inadequacy. This pattern bled into everything. If the house was messy when guests came over, I would snap at the kids to clean up, terrified that a stray toy or a pile of laundry would signal to the world that I was losing control. If they argued in public, I would silence them with a sharp look, more concerned with the opinions of strangers than with the feelings of my own children. I was curating a childhood for them that looked beautiful from the outside. The vacations, the clothes, the accolades, but inside the house, the air was thin. There was no room to breathe. There was no room to be messy or sad or confused, because those things didn't fit into the script I had written for us. The tragedy of perfectionism is that it teaches your children that love is conditional. It teaches them that they are worthy of affection only when they are performing well, when they are smiling, when they are making you proud. My children learned very quickly that their mother was a fragile creature who needed everything to be just so, and they adapted. They stopped coming to me with their problems because they didn't want to upset the balance. They hid their failures, their heartbreaks, and their doubts because they knew that I would meet them with anxiety and solutions, rather than empathy and listening. I raised 3 incredibly successful adults who are polite and organized, but who kept me at arm's length for years because they didn't feel safe enough to show me their messy, human selves. The breaking point for me didn't happen until my daughter, Sarah, had her first child. I was over at her house, helping in the only way I knew how, which was by cleaning her kitchen, and offering unsolicited advice on how to get the baby to sleep on a schedule. Sarah looked at me, exhausted, with dark circles under her eyes and milk stains on her shirt, and she started to cry. I went to comfort her, to tell her it would get better, but she pulled away. She looked at me and said, "Mom, please stop. You make me feel like I'm doing everything wrong, because you always made it look so easy. I can't be you." That moment cracked me open. I realized that my facade of perfection hadn't inspired my children, It had intimidated them. It had set a standard that was impossible to reach, and it had left them feeling inadequate. I had spent so much energy trying to look like I had it all together that I had denied them the comfort of knowing that their mother was a human being who struggled too. I had never let them see me cry. I had never apologized when I lost my temper. I just moved on and pretended it didn't happen. I had never told them that I was scared or lonely or unsure. I thought I was being strong for them, but really, I was just being distant. If I could go back and raise them again, I would lower the bar. I would lower it all the way to the floor. I would leave the dishes in the sink and sit on the floor to build the Lego tower, even if it meant the house was a disaster. I would care less about the grades and more about the light in their eyes. When David came home with that B, I would have hugged him and said, "Math is hard, isn't it? Let's go get ice cream." I would have taught them that failure is not a terrifying precipice, but a normal part of walking through life. I would apologize to them. This is something I almost never did. I thought apologizing showed weakness, that it undermined my authority as a parent. I was wrong. Apologizing shows your children that you respect them. It shows them that adults make mistakes and that relationships are resilient enough to handle those mistakes. I would say, "I'm sorry I yelled. I'm tired and I'm frustrated, but that isn't your fault." I look at my grandchildren now, and I am a completely different woman with them. I am the grandmother who lets them eat cake for breakfast occasionally. I am the one who lets them jump in mud puddles and track dirt into the hallway, because dirt can be cleaned, but the memory of that joy is permanent. I see my children watching me with them, sometimes with a look of confusion, wondering where this relaxed, joyful woman came from. I want to tell them that she was always there, buried under layers of fear and expectation. I am 74 years old, and my house is quiet now. The accolades are in boxes in the attic. The report cards are dust. The clean floors and the perfectly folded laundry meant absolutely nothing in the grand scheme of things. What matters is the relationship I have with my adult children, which we are slowly, painfully rebuilding. We are learning to be real with each other. I am learning to tell them about my regrets, and they are learning to trust that I can handle their truths. If you are a parent sitting in the thick of it right now, feeling the weight of the world on your shoulders, trying to curate the perfect life for your kids, please let it go. Your children do not need a manager. They do not need a chauffeur or a tutor or a chef. They need you. They need to see you struggle and survive. They need to see you make mistakes and forgive yourself. They need to know that they are loved not for what they achieve or how they behave, but simply because they exist. Do not waste these precious fleeting years polishing a statue when you could be holding a hand. Perfection is a myth, but connection is real, and it is the only thing that endures when the noise of child rearing finally fades away.